Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's December 2020, and after 3 months on YouTube, now we have more than 5,000 subscribers, more than 300,000 minutes watched, and more than 50,000 views. We're so happy to inform you that now we have the director of Omanfil recruitment agency, a recruitment agency that has operated in the last 43 years. Can you just imagine that? Some of you were not even born yet when Omanfil started to help our Filipino workers go to the Middle East and the United Kingdom. So now, this is the perfect time to conduct this collaboration, knowing that just recently, the government of the Republic of the Philippines has lifted the deployment ban for healthcare workers. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome the founder of Omanfil, Mr. Raymond Huang. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Irvin, and thank you so much to you and to the Niner organization for inviting me to this video collaboration.
Thank you, sir. So we'll focus on UK visa for nurses. Sir, will you please give us an overview of the opportunities waiting for nurses in the United Kingdom?
Okay, so for the UK, there actually is only one classification for nurses visa, and this is called the Tier 2, TIER, Tier 2 visa. It's a general visa for migrants. No? Migrants meaning they expect that you will go there for 3 years to cover your contract and perhaps decide to stay on longer and have a new life there. So any nurse that is trained outside of the European Union and the UK obviously will need to actually first be registered with something called the Nursing and Midwifery Council. And from there, the sponsor, the hospital, will be the one to get something called a certificate of sponsorship. And that certificate of sponsorship says that you will have a Tier 2 migrant visa, general visa for migrants. And that's how we process it. We go through the visa process and get you that visa. Okay.
Okay. Sir, now that the HCW ban has been lifted recently, can you please give us an update? So I'm sure you are coordinating with POEA or DOLE or OWA. At least our nurses get to know what their first steps, first step must be in the coming weeks and in the coming months.
Yes. So we really welcome the news of this lifting of the HCW ban. At the same time, we are cautious because there's a cap of 5,000, a quota of 5,000 nurses that can be deployed. So currently, we are actually working the POEA to get new contracts approved and coded, new accreditations with hospitals. So these have kind of been pending for the last few months. But now that the POA is back in, well, I guess semi-full operation, all right. So we really just have to do a lot of follow-ups. Actually, a lot of things are being done online with the POEA because they need to control this whole wave of applications and contracts and whatever paperwork they need to do. No? So what they are trying to do now is to set appointments online and manage all of these through online facilities. No? So setting appointments and all of these things and going to the POA, you have to set appointments first before you can do any of these processing. Now, the first step for nurses with regard to the UK is really to email their updated resumes to us. Okay, so you don't have to come to our office, which is in Paranaque. All you need to do to start the process really is to send your CV. Okay, what Omanfil regularly does is we have Facebook postings that show all of our openings from various hospitals. And if you see an opening that interests you, then when you email us your CV, just say which hospital that is and what nursing specialization that is. Like if it's a med-surg nurse, an OR nurse, just send that to us. And we begin from there, right? From there, okay, we arrange for a video interview because of COVID. All interviews now are done online. So either via Skype or the hospital's own video tools. And we schedule that. And also, there is actually also a small and short drugs calculation test that is done. So those are kind of like the prerequisites for an interview: the CV screening itself by the hospital and the drugs calculation test. Not all hospitals give the drugs calculation test. Okay, some of them or several of them, but that's just part of the screening, and then the interview is arranged. Okay, so that's actually how to go about it. And once you pass the interview, so that I just explain quickly the process, we
Sure,
give
sir.
you the list of documents to be submitted. Okay, and of course, in parallel to this, you have to be working on your nursing and midwifery council registration. Okay.
Okay, so just to update our nurses, you can choose which hospital, you can choose which NHS trust, because that's usually their concern whenever
Yeah.
they ask us, sir, like, what is the first step? Can we
Mhm.
choose the specific blah, blah, blah? So at least now they are informed. They look at the available positions, they look
Correct.
at which hospitals are hiring. And then when they email you, they let you know which one is their preferred hospital and mention their specialization as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, yeah, if you don't mind, Irvin, most of our hospitals are in the greater London area. All right. So, but we do have hospitals outside of London as well for those who want to work outside of London. So, but there are advantages also to working in London, which I can talk about later. Okay.
Sure, sir. Okay, for our next question, this is the typical concern of most applicants. How
Mhm.
much is the ultra super minimum salary?
Well, the salary actually is standard for nurses in the UK. It ranges
Okay.
from 23,000 to 24,000 pounds. All right. Um, and this is for something they call a band five nurse. A
Okay.
band five nurse means a nurse that has already been registered with the NMC, right? Now, I wanted to mention something about working in London because London offers something called a London waiting allowance. Okay, waiting as in heavy weight, it's a waiting allowance, which is 20% in addition to your salary if you
Mhm.
live in central, if you live and work in central London, actually, if you work in central London, and 15% if you're working outside of central London. So the design of that is to help with, rentals and things like this when you live in London. So the salary, therefore, of a nurse working in London is actually 29,888. Okay, so that you know. So it's beneficial for the nurses to know this. Okay.
Sir, can we just, I'll just use my calculator so
Yeah.
that our audience, our subscribers get to have an idea. So you mentioned something like 29,000, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Sir, would you mind? Can I ask for the latest exchange rate? Like 65, maybe?
Yeah, I think it's around between 63 and 65, but you can use
Okay.
65. It's a pretty good rate.
Okay.
Hmm.
So it's 29,000. Let's multiply that by 55. So that's roughly 1.595, 1,595,000 in 1 year. If we do the math, divided by 12 months, that's roughly 130 to 135,000 pesos, depending on the exchange rate.
Right, right. And I think, well, my own computation is actually 1.8 million because it's actually 29,000 times 65, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's 1.8 million. And then, well, there is a tax, of course, right, on
Yes,
this, but
yes.
that's the
Mm-hmm.
gross salary first. Yes. Yeah.
So what about the case in UK? Is the tax like America with state tax and federal tax? Please give us an idea. Thank you.
Sure. There's actually only a fixed tax system in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
So for anyone earning, um, for a nurse whose salary is, well, actually in 1 year they'll make really about 34, 35,000 because they take extra shifts. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
the tax rate is actually 20%. Okay, now if you earn more than that, the rate can go up to 40%, meaning the actual salary rate is from 50,000 and above, 50,000 to 150,000 pounds, you're taxed 40%. And over 150,000 pounds earning per year, you're taxed 45%. So up to 50,000, 20% taxation.
So, sir, is it safe to assume it's best that they do the mathematics first before they decide if they're going to get extra hours for their shift?
Well, I don't think you can really have so many extra hours that will make you earn over 50,000. But the average is about 35, 36,000 a nurse, no? Because Filipino nurses are so hardworking, and they
That's right.
really like to take advantage of these things called bank shifts. So these are extra shifts that are allowed, especially during holidays where they get a premium. So it's very advantageous for them to do that and earn more.
Well, some of our former lecturers and former coaches deployed by Omanfil to the United Kingdom even messaged me saying, "Sir, you know what? There are times we just have to speak in Tagalog because everyone working in one shift comes from the Philippines,
Yeah,
especially if it's nighttime or weekends or especially on holidays." Sir,
yeah.
do you have an idea like how many percent of the nurses in the United Kingdom come from the Philippines?
Well,
I guess we
actually,
belong to the top five.
what I've heard is in particular hospitals, all right, the average is around 20% of the nurse population in a particular hospital is Filipino. So we're trying to make that trend go up because the Brits themselves have told us that they really love the care and attention that the Filipino nurses provide their patients. So, in fact, I have an example. We had an Omani friend who was hospitalized in London. And
Mhm.
in fact, he told the people there when he was hospitalized, please give me a Filipino nurse. If you give me another nurse, I'm going to die. That's what he said. So it's like the demand for Filipino nurses from the patients themselves is really strong. So it's important to know.
That's right. So at least now they know the step one, which is to send their updated CV. Now, sir, the question is, do you require work experience? And if yes, how many years? And is work gap fine?
Well, okay, the minimum now that is required that all the hospitals that we cater to are looking for
Mhm.
is 1 year. Okay,
Okay.
1 year of experience, and of course, preferably hospital experience. That would be the best. Although we also cater to community nurses and things like this, and even mental health patients and neurodisabilities. So it's very specialized. Some of these fields are very specialized. So the hospital might ask, particularly when we post on Facebook,
Mhm.
maybe 2 years for some positions. But the general rule is minimum of 1 year. Okay. Now talking about the work gap, especially because of COVID, there's been a lot of leeway being given by the hospitals about the work gap. So they were even saying up to 6 months work gap, especially because of COVID, right? But one of the things they've always emphasized to us is nursing skills. The nursing skills have to be fresh, right? So of course, the hospital would prefer that while you're undertaking this application to the UK, you will be employed and working. Okay. And for those who left their employment, even a part-time nursing job or even private duty nurse, no, as long as you're active doing something in nursing, those are actually acceptable. Okay. So once this COVID is going to be over, which is going to probably take another 2 years, then maybe the work gap will be a little more stringent, right? Because there by that time. But right now, 3 months is the general rule, and up to six depending on the hospital.
Okay, sir. So let me just clarify. NMC does not specifically require work experience, but it's the hospital that requires work experience.
Correct. Actually, that's a very good point, Irvin, because when nurses start their registration with the NMC, they
Mhm.
can actually do it right after they've taken their nursing board and passed it. All right. Because
True.
the NMC now has waived that working experience. And so now nurses can start their applications now with the NMC. And that really means a lot of just documentation, showing your degree, showing your that you've passed, you're a registered nurse there, etc. We can go through the process with the nurse when we give our orientation. And then at the same time, like you pointed out, it's really the hospital that
Mhm.
requires the work experience from the nurse. Mhm.
Okay, so once again, just to recap for our audience and our subscribers, NMC in particular does not require work experience. However, you will have more job opportunities. You will have more options to choose from if you have minimum of 1 year work experience, preferably in a hospital setting.
Correct.
Okay, now let's move on. What about the average processing this time, most especially that we're facing this pandemic?
Okay. The processing time really depends on how quickly the applicant or the nurse can submit their documentation to us,
Agree.
right? So it's really, to tell you the truth, I've had many nurses who've come to us on the day of interview, and from interview to deployment, 6 weeks. Okay. I'm not kidding. I mean, and this is 6 weeks for this guy, Jomar, who works in UCLH. Okay. By the way, we only deployed him 3 years ago. He's already a band 7 nurse. So it's pretty amazing. Yeah. Very good progress and good hospital. Okay.
Sir,
So
would you
yeah. So but the average, so just to let me clarify, the average that it takes nurses is about 3 to 4 months before all are completed, including their NMC registrations. Not that you complete the NMC registration. The last part of the NMC registration is actually something called the OSCE. That's an objective structured clinical exam. So that will be done in London. And that is the final exam before you actually get your UKRN registration. But up to that step prior to the OSCE, you must finish that and submit all the documentations required by the hospital. Then you will be given a certificate of sponsorship so that you can apply for your visa.
So as you've mentioned earlier, you had a nurse deployed to the UK in just 6 weeks. Would you recommend that if the nurse goes to you for, let's say, virtual interview, the nurse should have passed the English exam and CBT exam already?
Yeah, definitely. In fact, I would encourage the nurses to review at Niner because, Niner has probably the finest OET and IELTS reviewers led by Irvin himself, right? So obviously, it's the natural thing for you to do is have your test first because that's one of the biggest hurdles in your application to do. In fact, I've mentioned this in the 6 years that we've been doing nurses. This last, nurse deployments, it's always been about Niner. It's always been partnering with you, Irvin, which you're really happy about. And I've seen the success that Niner has produced in IELTS and also now in OET. So there's a lot of good things happen when you review with Irvin. And yes, definitely I recommend you take your exams first. After you pass it, apply with us. And I can assure you will be put in a really good hospital. Okay, so yeah, thanks, Irvin.
Just to inspire our applicants, earlier, before the start of our recording, you've mentioned that you deployed this number of nurses last week and 2 weeks ago. Can we please mention that once again so that our nurses will have to do their work quickly so that perhaps they'll be part of the next batch of deployment?
Okay, so because of the pandemic, things were pushed a little bit further, but we started deploying in September. Okay, and we only deployed 15 nurses, but last month we deployed over 40 nurses. Okay, and then in November we're deploying another 43 nurses, and this early December 54 nurses. So the rate by which all these deployments are happening is growing and growing. The reason for that is because we need to catch up with some of the backlog, okay,
That's right.
that have happened because of COVID. So tell you the truth, the nurses are all very excited. Of course, I mean, there's been kind of a long wait period all around, and of course, there's some feelings of too long, matagal, but we can't help it. This is what the pandemic has caused throughout the business, right? Business industry and everywhere else. But now it's very positive because the hospitals have already said they want to catch up with all of the deployments, and that's why from smaller groups of like 20 every month, now they increased it to 40 nurses every month. That's for one hospital. So all the hospitals are doing the same. So deployments are increasing. So I encourage you, really, now is the time to actually apply and also take your English course.
Okay. So for our next question, some of the applicants who don't have an idea at all, when they inquire, especially if they have plans going to Canada, Australia, New Zealand, primarily they are discouraged because of the show money requirement.
Right.
Now, what about UK? Is show money required?
No, actually, there's actually no show money required for the UK. I mean, in fact, when you apply with us, there were no fees for you to pay Omanfil at all. No process, no nothing. So, our job really is we'd be happy to take your application and to process you and deploy you to the UK. So definitely no show money. And I think it's just a question of your commitment to finish submissions of the documentation and do your NMC part. And that's basically it. Once you do the NMC part and your documentation, COS will come and visa and deployment. So that's basically actually the process is not difficult. Although some of the retrievals of documents can take time. That sometimes your school will take time to give you a transcript. I don't know why that is, but some schools do. But other than that, aside from, of course, passing the English test, which you have to do with Niner, um, it's very straightforward. And that's why it doesn't take long for me to orient nurses who are applying how to do this to the UK, because it's one of the fastest ways to go abroad. In fact, UK, I think, is probably number one. If I can do it in 6 weeks for many
Yeah.
nurses, why not you? Why not the nurse? Okay.
Okay, so that's good news for you guys. No show money. That is because you have guaranteed employment. Other countries don't offer guaranteed employment. So if you're planning to go to a specific country first, they want you to apply as an immigrant. And when you arrive, that's the time that you're going to look for a job. Other countries want you to study first, but that's not how UK does it. UK offers guaranteed employment prior to your deployment. So the moment you arrive there, you have guaranteed work. That's why there is no need for show money. Okay, now let's move on to the next few questions. What about the airfare, sir, and the accommodation for the first few weeks or the first few months? This is something that the other candidates are worried about. So perhaps let's encourage them by telling them what are the perks if they go to the UK when it comes to airfare and accommodation.
Yeah. So the airfare actually is paid by the hospital, right? So you don't have to worry about that at all. We will book the flights. Of course, we pay it, and then the hospital will refund or reimburse us. And then accommodation, the general rule is since 80% of our hospitals are in London, the London hospitals give 1 month of free accommodation. Okay. Now, those outside London have actually followed suit. They also give 1 month. Okay. So, and after that, the HR and our partner in the UK will help find accommodations for the nurses in London or outside and help them to get settled. Okay. So yes, it's 4 weeks or 1 month of free accommodation plus free airfare. All right. And then, I mean, depending on the hospital, they give you advances of £1,200 because you haven't really earned your any salary yet. Okay.
Mm.
Of course, that is going to be deductible over time, right? And there are a lot of benefits that are given to the nurse, like they sponsor, of course, your visa fees. All actually, practically all the fees, no, are either gifted to the nurse or advanced, especially the big ticket items. No? But still, the hospital really tries to make it convenient for the nurse to come over to the UK and not have to worry so much about financials. Okay, because once you're in their care, then you will be well taken care of, right? Mhm.
Sir, some applicants are also asking if they can reimburse their IELTS exam fee or their review fee. What about the applicants of Omanfil? Can they also enjoy the same benefit?
Well, recently or not too long ago, the NMC, well, actually not the NMC, the UKVI changed their rules about requiring IELTS to get your visa. Okay, so currently, because of this, we do not refund the UKVI IELTS. Okay, so what some of our hospitals have done instead is they've offered reimbursement of the NMC application fee, which is £140. It's about 9,000 pesos. and the CBT fee, the test that you have to do, the multiple choice test you have to do, which is another 85 pounds. No? So you add that up, that's over 200 pounds times 65. That's also a lot of money. That is actually what many of the hospitals in that are under our wing have done to help out the nurses now that UKVI is no longer being refunded. Okay, UKVI IELTS at least, right? So may tulong pa rin. And there's a lot of other benefits also that they get aside from that.
And some nurses are also asking for OSCE support, sir. Do we have something like that for them?
Yeah, actually, some of our hospitals actually pay for your first attempt at OSCE. So it's a gift to them. And that
Mhm.
is, as far as I remember, that's almost £1,000, no? So that is given by the hospital, but it depends on which hospital, because some hospitals would deduct it over time, like over 12
Mhm.
months, right? After you become a UKRN. But others would just gift it to you, especially the first attempt. So it really pays to review properly for the first attempt. And then once you pass it, you have no obligation. I mean, you're a UKRN.
So just a quick recap. So first, they need to pass an English examination. So it's either regular academic IELTS, no need for IELTS for UKVI, or the second option is OET. At the same time, they need to pass a nursing examination, which we call UKNMC CBT. That's computer-based test. That's the multiple choice examination. So once they pass these two examinations, they can proceed with the visa application and all. And then when they arrive in the UK, that's when they need to take another examination, objective structured clinical exam. It's like a practical examination in order for them to get a higher band. Did I get that right, sir?
Yes, that is actually correct, Irvin. You've summarized it perfectly.
Thank you, sir. Now,
Yeah.
before we move on to the next question, apart from the UK, apart from the UK hospitals, do you also have nursing homes as options for our applicants?
Actually, Omanfil has already deployed nurses to several nursing homes. So we also have nursing homes as clients. Now, they're non-NHS, of course, because these are private businesses. But actually, it's funny because when I've looked at the initial hourly rates of nursing home nurses, they're even higher than the NHS initially. Okay, so I think that's an encouragement for the nurses to also look at nursing homes. Yes, we do offer nursing homes. We have openings for that. So again, same requirements. You have to do the English test with review with Niner and pass it, and then proceed with the same things that Irvin has said about the CBT, and all obviously your documentation has to be submitted before you take the OSCE in London. Mhm.
So guys, it's not just hospitals, but Omanfil also deploys to nursing homes. Now, another question, sir. I know for a fact that there are a lot of candidates who are totally undecided. Just in case they change their mind somewhere along the way, can Omanfil also deploy them to Middle East or Germany or USA?
Definitely. Omanfil is 43 years old now. And when that's why the name of the company is Oman and Phil, Oman and Filipinas. No, the Phil was the short for Filipinas. But our first clients were in Oman, and it was actually the Ministry of Health. And the Ministry of Health, we sent over 10,000 nurses there. So our experience in healthcare has been well established since before. So, and from there, we've opened up the market to over 55 countries. In fact, close to 60. And one of the places we've sent to unusually is Antarctica. I mean, can you imagine sending workers to Antarctica? But not nurses yet, but pretty soon there will be. I'm just letting you know that, we really, our reach is very far and wide. But going back to what you said, of course, we deploy nurses to the United States, actually to all the countries who need nurses now. So obviously our strong point is UK, since we have such good clients there. And this is one of the things that the nurse applicants have to remember. When you apply, it's just not enough to depart the Philippines. You have to land in a good place. And so what we offer compared to other agencies really is that we really have 10 of the best hospitals in the UK. And you can check their quality ratings. They're right up there. Top 50, they're all there.
So as I've mentioned earlier, we have a lot of undecided applicants. So in a day, 100 to 200 people messaging. So I actually don't know where to start. So now, if you're undecided, Omanfil is the perfect company for you. Think of a destination, think of a continent. Perhaps they've deployed someone there in the last 4 decades or so.
Yeah. Actually, Irvin, I think one of the things that's going for us, of course, is our experience, right? I mean, from 1998 to 2003, when the first wave of UK nurse deployment started, we sent over 3,000 nurses. And that time, there was not even a requirement for an English test. Okay. And after that, in 2010, we sent again, and then we established this partnership with King's Commercial, which is, by the way, an NHS company itself. No,
Mhm.
so we have, see, that's another thing. I think Omanfil, with our years of history and our presidential award for export excellence for Manpower, is there. And then we partnered with a really good company in the UK. So between the two of us, you're going to be well taken care of. So
So
be assured.
for our last question, honestly, I already know the answer to this question because of my 50 lecturers and coaches deployed to the United Kingdom. I'm so happy to inform you personally, sir, that more than half of them were actually deployed by Omanfil.
Oh, thank
So,
you.
yes, more than half of them. So
Sure.
now the question is, of all the recruitment agencies deploying nurses, why choose Omanfil in particular?
Okay, so let me summarize that into 4 points. Okay, so first of all, and I've mentioned this, is experience. We have
Yes.
the experience, as I've already mentioned, over 40 years of experience. And because of that experience, we were recognized by the president of the Philippines at that time herself. GMA gave Omanfil the presidential award for Manpower Export Excellence. All right. So our experience in healthcare has been established, as I've already mentioned. Okay. And our reputation for trust and integrity is there. So that's, I think, the second point. First, experience. Second, trust and integrity. We don't collect anything from the nurses. Our passion and our mission is to deploy you to the UK. That's our job, and we're good at it. And we want you to be part of our team so that we can bring you to the UK. The third thing is we have the right partner in the UK. As I said, King's Commercial Management is an NHS company also. It's part of the National Health Service. So we're partnered with them to cater to the best hospitals in the UK. And while you're there, you can always contact them if you have any questions because they're our counterpart there. And lastly, as I already mentioned, we have the best hospitals in the UK. All right. And I kid you not, King's College Hospital, number one in terms of accident and emergency, it's a liver transplant center. We have Royal Marsden Hospital, cancer hospital, the number one in the UK, and actually number one in the world as compared to Johns Hopkins. Okay. Then we have, gosh, Great Ormond Street Children's Hospital. So we also cater, aside from cancer, we also cater to children. So pediatric nurses can apply here at Gosh, top children's hospital in the UK. UCLH, University College London Hospital. It's the best managed hospital. That's their reputation in the UK. We have Imperial College Hospitals. St. Mary's is one of the 5 hospitals in the Imperial College group. This is where Princess Kate, the future Queen of England, gives birth to her children. All right. And so, and we have also Whittington Hospital, which caters to community nurses. So we have this whole mix of nurses. We even have Royal Hospital for Neurodisabilities, for nerve diseases and all of these. And then outside London, because some nurses are interested in outside London, we have a hospital called Cambridge University Hospital. Cambridge is only 50 minutes away by train, but it's a great hospital that caters to the Cambridge University town there. Again, one of the highest rated hospitals in the UK. And also we have another one called Sherwood Forest, which is in Nottingham, which is one of our newer clients. But they all cater to all kinds of nurses. So those 4 things: experience, trust and integrity, the right partner in the UK, and the best hospitals in the UK.
And sir, if I may add, Sir Raymond is super hands-on, like really hands-on, especially if you have a concern. he will respond, he will reply via email. There are a lot of recruitment agencies, but sometimes the directors just ask someone else to address your concern. But Sir Raymond is not like that. From the nitty gritty details, he micromanages. And this is perhaps the reason why, in our last 6 years of partnership, this has really been fruitful to our nurse applicants, considering that I, for one, I'm also super hands-on, and Sir Raymond also does exactly the same. Obviously, when we refer clients to recruitment agencies, we don't want them to be disappointed. And I'm sure you won't be frustrated when you choose the right recruitment agency, something that has been in the business for more than 4 decades already. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. I notice it's more than 30 minutes already, but I'm 100% sure the info that you've heard in the last 30 minutes, all of those details are very helpful, especially when you decide which particular hospital to choose, what the benefits are. You don't have to think about show money. At the same time, there's OSCE support, airfare is paid for, and accommodation is also provided in the first few weeks or first few months. Ladies and gentlemen, Omanfil Recruitment Agency. So thank you so much. And hopefully you will also watch our future videos as we focus on IELTS and OET and other stuff related to visa application. Once again, this is 9.09er and Omanfil YouTube collaboration. Thank you for your time, guys.
Thank you, Irvin. Bye bye.